For several weeks now, Nia Cole has been using her own tip money to cover breakfast for the old man at table 7. This morning, she is already 26 days behind on her rent. Her sister's college scholarship has an $18,000 gap that is counting down. And the development company that just bought her building has given her 30 days before they start the process that ends with Soulful Roots emptied and locked forever. Then the old man walks in again. He moves to the back of the restaurant, the table no one else wants, and he sits down carefully, the way people sit when their body has been carrying something heavy for a long time. He reaches into his coat pocket. Under the table, where he thinks no one can see, he counts his coins. He orders just coffee, 1 cup, the cheapest thing on the menu. The smell of eggs and bacon fills the restaurant. Everyone else is busy with their morning. No one is looking at the man at table 7. Nia is looking. She sees the coat with the frayed collar. She sees the careful way he counts. She sees the hollow hunger behind his eyes. And she sees something else. Something that does not belong on a man who cannot afford toast. A watch. On his wrist. That costs more than everything in this restaurant combined. If she feeds him again today, her family pays the price. The numbers do not work. They have not worked for weeks. She picks up a plate anyway. She has no idea that everything, the restaurant, the rent, her sister's future, this entire block, is about to change forever. Before we go any further, drop a comment right now and tell Brother Elijah where in the world you are watching from. And make sure you are subscribed, because what is about to happen to this woman is something you do not want to miss. The alarm goes off at 4:47 in the morning. Not 5, not 4:30, 4:47. That specific, particular, unglamorous number that belongs only to people who carry things the rest of the world doesn't see. Nia Cole doesn't groan. She doesn't hit snooze. She doesn't lie there staring at the ceiling the way you might if the morning held something worth dreading. She just opens her eyes, sits up, and begins. That right there, that quiet beginning, tells you everything you need to know about who this woman is. Before she says a word, before she does a thing, the way she meets the morning says it all. She is 28 years old. She runs a restaurant in Atlanta's West End that her grandmother built from nothing, and that she has been quietly bleeding herself dry to keep alive. She has under $1,100 in her personal account. She has a rent notice sitting face down on her office desk that she has not looked at in 3 days. And she has a younger sister counting on her for a future she isn't sure she can afford. But at 4:47 in the morning, none of that is what gets her up. What gets her up is simpler than that, older than that. Miss Ida's voice, still there, still clear, even after all these years. Baby, that voice would say, the morning doesn't wait for your feelings. And neither do hungry people. The apartment is small and clean in that way that takes effort. The kind of clean that doesn't happen by accident. It happens because someone cares, even when they're tired. Especially when they're tired. She moves through the kitchen without turning on the main light. Just the small one above the stove. She knows this space the way you know your own heartbeat, without thinking, without looking. She makes coffee, not for herself yet, for Amara. Her younger sister is 17 years old and sleeps like the world owes her another hour. Nia lets her have it. She always lets her have it. Because Amara works hard, studies harder, and deserves every single minute of rest that Nia cannot afford for herself. She sets the coffee where Amara will find it. Leaves a note beside it. 3 words in handwriting that hasn't changed since she was 15. Eat something first. That's it. No lecture. No reminder about the scholarship deadline or the school project or the doctor's appointment Nia rescheduled twice because she couldn't leave the restaurant. Just those 3 words and a cup of coffee gone warm. She pulls on her jacket, picks up her keys, looks toward Amara's door for one moment, and then she goes. West End Atlanta before dawn is a different city than the one you see in the daytime. It's quieter, softer, more honest somehow. The streetlights are still on, throwing orange pools across the sidewalk, and the air has that particular early morning stillness that makes everything feel possible, or maybe just undecided. Nia walks 6 blocks to the restaurant. She always walks. She tells people it's because parking is a headache, which is partially true. But the real reason is that these 6 blocks are hers. They are the 6 minutes every morning when she is not anyone's boss, anyone's sister, anyone's granddaughter, or anyone's last hope. She is just a woman walking through her neighborhood. She passes the barbershop where Mr. Clyde has cut hair for 40 years. The shuttered florist that used to belong to the Patterson family. The empty lot where a hardware store stood until 8 months ago, when the rent tripled overnight and the owner, 61 years old, third generation, had to walk away. She sees all of it. She doesn't look away, because looking away is how things disappear without anyone noticing. And Nia Cole notices everything. The key turns in the lock at exactly 5:03 in the morning. The smell hits her first, the way it always does. Grease and wood and something older underneath. Something that belongs to memory more than to any ingredient you could name. Some people walk into a place and feel nothing. Nia walks into Soulful Roots and feels held. She flicks on the kitchen lights. They flicker once. They always flicker once, and then settle. She ties on her apron the way her grandmother taught her. Left side first. Always left side first. She doesn't know why. She has never questioned it. It is simply the way things are done. Then she begins. She checks the cooler first. Temperature reading. Right where it needs to be. She counts the eggs. Counts the biscuit mix. Pulls the greens from yesterday and checks them. Still good. She makes a note in the small book she keeps in her apron pocket. Not on her phone. A book. With a pen. Because that is also how things are done. Then she walks to the front, straightens 3 chairs that don't need straightening, and stops at the register. The rent envelope is there. Face down on the counter beside the register, where she put it 3 days ago. She looks at it for a long moment. Turns it over. Reads the number one more time, as if it might have changed overnight. It hasn't. She puts it face down again. Moves on. On the east wall of Soulful Roots, between the window and the old clock that runs 4 minutes slow, there is a photograph. It is not a large photograph. It is not framed in anything expensive. It is a black and white image, slightly faded at the corners, of a black woman standing in the doorway of this very restaurant, this same doorway, these same walls, in the year 1971. Her name was Ida Mae Cole. She is wearing an apron. Her arms are crossed, and she is smiling. Not the kind of smile you put on for a camera, but the other kind. The kind that means something. The kind that comes from knowing exactly who you are and being at complete peace with it. Nia stops in front of the photo every single morning. Every morning without exception. She doesn't pray out loud. She doesn't say anything at all. She just stands there for a moment and looks. Because that photograph is not just a photograph. It is a reminder, a standard, a question asked silently every single day. Are you still her? Are you still doing it the way she taught you? Nia straightens the frame. It doesn't need straightening, but she straightens it anyway, and then she walks back to the kitchen. Because the answer to the question is always yes. And the only way to prove it is to begin. Her phone rings at 6:14. She already knows who it is without looking. Morning, baby, morning. Amara's voice is the voice of someone who has been awake for exactly 4 minutes and is still negotiating terms with the day. Did you eat? Nia pauses. She is in the middle of checking the biscuits. She has not eaten. I had something before I left, she says. Which is technically true if coffee counts as something. She decides it does. Nia, Amara, a pause. The kind of pause that only exists between two people who know each other too well for lies to land cleanly. I'll eat during the rush break, Nia says. I promise. You say that every day. And I mean it every day. She can hear Amara smiling on the other end of the line. That smile. It is the most expensive thing Nia owns. Worth more than the building. Worth more than anything she could name. I found my sweater, Amara says. She sounds genuinely pleased about this, the way only a 17-year-old can be genuinely pleased about finding a sweater. The gray one. I'm happy for you and your sweater. You're not. I really am. And she is. She really is. Because this is what normal sounds like. This is what she works for at 4:47 in the morning. For her sister to be able to call and talk about a sweater and have it be the whole world. Go to school, Nia says. I love you. Love you too. Eat something. She hangs up. She is still smiling when Keisha walks through the back door at 6:22. Keisha Washington has worked at Soulful Roots for 8 years. She is 31 years old. She has twin boys at home who she describes as either a blessing or a biological experiment gone wrong depending on the day, and she is the kind of person who can read a room the way other people read a text message, fast, accurate, and with no patience for ambiguity. She walks in, hangs up her coat, ties her apron, and looks at Nia in one smooth motion. How bad is it today? Nia does not look up from the grill. What do you mean? You're doing that thing with your jaw. Keisha demonstrates, a barely perceptible tightening. You do that when the numbers aren't working. You've been doing it since Tuesday. Nia rotates the biscuits. They are perfectly golden. She focuses on that, the specific small perfection of a biscuit turned at exactly the right moment. It's fine, she says. Keisha fills the coffee urns with the particular efficiency of someone who has done something 10,000 times and sees no reason to make it complicated. I heard Riverside Grill closed last week. I know. That's 4 now. On this block alone. I know, Keisha. A pause. The coffee machine hisses. The kitchen settles into the rhythm of morning preparation, the particular music of a restaurant coming alive. Pans on the line. A drawer opening and closing. The soft percussion of a professional kitchen doing what it was built to do. We're not closing, Nia says. Quietly, not defiantly. The way you say something because you need to hear it out loud. Keisha looks at her for a moment. No, she says simply. We're not. And then she picks up a tray and gets to work. Because that is what you do. You name the thing and then you get to work. By 6:45, the rest of the Soulful Roots staff has arrived. There is Darius, 23, who works the grill with the kind of focused intensity that makes you think he is either a genius or listening to something no one else can hear. He is usually both. There is Miss Carol, 67, who has been on the morning floor since before Nia was born and who insists on doing things in a specific order that she has never explained and that no one has ever questioned. Her section is always the cleanest. Her customers always leave the most satisfied. The method speaks for itself. There is Jerome, who washes dishes and is saving up to go back to school, and who Nia quietly gives an extra $40 in his envelope every other week and calls it a performance bonus because his pride will not accept a gift. 6 people in total. 6 people who showed up this morning because this place exists. Because Nia Cole gets up at 4:47 and goes. She looks at them moving through the kitchen, this particular, irreplaceable collection of people, and she feels what she always feels at this moment. Responsible. Completely, overwhelmingly responsible. Not in the way that crushes. In the way that clarifies. The weight that tells you what matters and why. All right, she says. Her voice shifts, not louder, just settled. Let's open this place up. At 7 o'clock in the morning, Soulful Roots opens its doors. And Nia Cole becomes someone else. Not a different person, something truer than that. The Nia who walks these 6 blocks with the weight of rent notices and scholarship gaps and empty storefronts pressing behind her eyes. She doesn't disappear. She just steps aside, makes room for the other Nia. The one Miss Ida raised. The one who remembers every regular's name. Who notices when someone sits down too carefully, like their knees are giving them trouble, and brings them a chair with no arms before they have to ask. Who can tell from across the room whether a person is hungry because they haven't eaten or hungry because something else is eating at them, and who treats both kinds of hunger the same way. With food, with time, with the simple, radical dignity of being seen. The first customer through the door is Mr. Ellington, 74 years old, retired postal worker. He has been coming to Soulful Roots since it was Ida May's place, and he orders the same thing every morning. 2 eggs scrambled soft, grits, 1 biscuit, and black coffee, and Nia has it started before he reaches the counter. Morning, Mr. Ellington. Morning, baby girl. He settles onto his usual stool, the third one from the left, always the third one. How's your sister? Brilliant and impossible. He laughs. It is a good laugh. The kind that fills a room without demanding anything of it. Good, he says. That's exactly what she should be at 17. And just like that, the day has begun. The real day. The one that makes the 4:47 alarm worth answering. The morning rush runs from 7 until about 9:15. In those 2 hours and 15 minutes, Soulful Roots serves 63 people. Nia knows this because she counts. Not obsessively, quietly, the way you keep track of something that matters. 63 people who came in one way and left another. Warmer, fed, a little more ready for whatever the day had planned for them. That is not nothing. That is, in fact, everything. But at 9:20, when the last of the breakfast crowd has cleared and Keisha is resetting the tables and Darius is breaking down the line, Nia goes to her office. It is barely an office. A small room off the kitchen with a desk and a filing cabinet and a window that looks out onto the alley. But it's hers. She sits down, opens the drawer, takes out the 2 pieces of paper she has been carrying in her mind all morning, even while she smiled and cooked and refilled Mr. Ellington's coffee for the 3rd time. The rent notice, and Amara's scholarship letter. She lays them side by side on the desk. The rent notice says she has 31 days before the new landlord, a development company called Meridian Group, which she has never met and which has never set foot in Soulful Roots, begins formal eviction proceedings. The increase they are demanding is 40%. 40% on top of what she is already barely making work. The scholarship letter says that Amara has been accepted to Spelman College, full academic merit, conditional. But that the scholarship covers only 60% of the total cost. The remaining $18,000 must be confirmed within 60 days or the place will be offered to another student. 31 days on one side, 60 days on the other, and between them, a number that refuses to bend no matter how many ways she looks at it. She sits with those 2 pieces of paper for a long time. She does not cry. Nia Cole does not cry in her office at 9:20 in the morning when the numbers don't work. That is not available to her. By 7:15 in the morning, Soulful Roots is full. Not almost full, not getting there, full. Every booth occupied, 3 people waiting by the door, Keisha moving between tables with a coffee pot in each hand like she was born holding them, and Darius running the grill with the quiet intensity of a man who takes biscuits personally. This is what Nia Cole built. Not alone. She will be the first to tell you that. Miss Ida built the foundation. The neighborhood built the loyalty. The staff built the daily miracle of it. But Nia kept it alive when it should have died, rebuilt it when it burned, and showed up at 4:47 every single morning until showing up became its own kind of architecture. And now, on a Thursday in the 3rd week of January, Soulful Roots is full. The noise of it is a specific kind of beautiful. Not the polished silence of expensive restaurants where the food arrives like a performance and everyone speaks in library voices. This is the other kind. Forks on plates, a laugh coming from the corner booth, 2 old men arguing about something that happened in 1987, the particular sound of a community that has found its gathering place and returns to it the way you return to anything that has never let you down. Nia moves through all of it like water finding its level. Natural, necessary, without effort that anyone can see, which is the mark of effort that cost everything. She comes in at 7:40. Young, maybe 23, 24. A little girl on her hip, maybe 2 years old, wearing a coat that is just barely warm enough for January and a hat with a pom-pom on top that she keeps reaching up to bat at with one small fist. The mother is in scrubs. She has either just finished a night shift or is about to start a day one. Her eyes have the particular look of someone who has been awake longer than is reasonable and is holding it together through a combination of will and necessity. She slides into a booth near the back, gets the little girl settled with a set of plastic keys from her bag. Then she opens the menu and does a thing that Nia has seen 1,000 times and never once gotten used to. She counts, not casually browsing, counting. Her eyes moving from item to price to item to price, her lips moving slightly, her hand resting flat on the table in the particular stillness of someone doing mathematics they do not want to be doing. Nia watches from across the restaurant. She doesn't stare, she is too practiced for that. But she sees. She always sees. She goes to the kitchen. Comes back out 2 minutes later with a plate. 2 eggs, turkey sausage, grits, biscuit, a small bowl of fruit on the side, and a cup of apple juice with a lid and a straw that she sets in front of the little girl, who looks at it with the pure uncomplicated joy that only a 2-year-old can bring to a cup of juice. The young mother looks up. I didn't order this. I know. Nia sets the plate down gently. Kitchen made too much this morning. Darius always overcooks on Thursdays. I don't know why. He's been doing it for 3 years. I've stopped asking. It'll just go to waste otherwise. You'd actually be helping us out. The woman looks at her, then at the plate, then back at her. Something moves behind her eyes, a complicated thing, the specific mixture of pride and relief and exhaustion that comes from being in a position where you need something and someone is offering it and you are not sure whether to feel grateful or wounded. Nia holds her gaze, warm, steady, not pitying. That is the crucial thing. Never pitying. Pity makes the gift about the giver. This is something else. I appreciate it, the woman says quietly. Thank you. Thank Darius, Nia says, already walking away. Tell him to stop overcooking and he'll stop creating these problems. Behind her, she hears the little girl make a sound of absolute contentment at the fruit bowl. That sound, that specific small sound, that is the whole job. Everything else is just the work that earns the right to hear it. He comes in at 8:47. Nia knows him. Councilman Derek Hayes, District 4, 3 terms, the kind of politician who shows up at community events with good intentions and insufficient follow-through. He is not a bad man. He is a man shaped by systems that reward caution and punish conviction, which over time produces a particular kind of softness in a person. A tendency to speak of problems without quite arriving at solutions. He takes a booth near the front, orders the breakfast plate, eggs over easy, bacon, home fries, orange juice. He is on his phone when Nia brings it, and he nods his thanks without looking up, which she does not take personally. She has been invisible to important people before. It is not a new experience. She is refilling Walter's coffee, the 6th time now, not that she is counting, except she absolutely is, when she hears it. Hayes, talking to someone on the phone, his voice low but not low enough. The Meridian deal closed Thursday. Yeah, the whole block, from Sycamore to the corner of Vine. All of it. A pause. No, the existing leases are short-term. Meridian's team says they'll begin the transition process within 30 days. New development is already permitted, mixed use, residential above retail, the whole package. Another pause. Look, I know it's hard. But this is what investment looks like. The neighborhood's changing. That's progress. That's progress. Nia stands very still beside Walter's table. The coffee pot is in her hand. She is aware, distantly, that she should move, that she is standing in the middle of the dining room holding a coffee pot and not moving, but for just this moment, this very specific 3-second moment, she cannot. The whole block, from Sycamore to the corner of Vine. That is her block. That is this block. That is Soulful Roots. Walter looks up at her. He doesn't say anything. He just looks. And there is something in his eyes, something that says he heard it too, and that he is 81 years old and has watched this neighborhood go through things that would break a lesser place, and that he is not going to pretend this is not what it is. Nia breathes in, sets the coffee pot down on Walter's table gently, excuses herself. She walks to the kitchen. The door swings closed behind her. Darius looks up from the grill. Keisha looks up from the ticket board. They both read her face in the same instant. Give me 1 minute, Nia says. Calm, steady, the way she always is. She goes to the back, stands at the small window that looks out onto the alley. The January air is coming through a gap in the frame she keeps meaning to fix, and it is cold on her face, and she lets it be cold. 30 days. The Meridian Group. The whole block. She closes her eyes. She does not pray out loud. Nia Cole's prayers are not the kind that require words. They are the kind that are more like an understanding between two parties who have been through enough together that language is no longer strictly necessary. 1 minute. She takes exactly 1 minute. Then she opens her eyes, picks up a ticket from the pass, and walks back out into the restaurant. Because table 9 has been waiting 6 minutes for their home fries, and that is not acceptable, and whatever else is true this morning, that is also true. So she goes. She always goes. By 9:30, the breakfast rush is over. The restaurant settles into the quieter middle hour. A few lingering tables, the soft work of reset and prep, the particular exhale of a kitchen that has just run hard and is catching its breath. Keisha finds Nia in the office. She doesn't knock. She never knocks. They agreed years ago that knocking is a formality that their relationship has long since outgrown. She just opens the door and stands in it. She looks at Nia. Nia looks at her. The whole block, Keisha says. The whole block. Keisha is quiet for a moment. She has twin boys at home. She has been at Soulful Roots for 8 years. She makes $14 an hour plus tips, and she has not once, not in 8 years, come to work and given anything less than everything she has. What are you going to do? She asks. Nia looks at the desk. The rent notice is there, face down, the way it has been for 3 days. The only thing I know how to do, she says. Which is, show up tomorrow. Keisha nods, once, slowly, the way you nod at something that is both insufficient and exactly right. Okay, she says, then that's what we do. She leaves, pulls the door almost close, Not all the way, never all the way, because all the way closed means you're dealing with something alone, and they do not do that here. Nia sits alone for a moment. The restaurant sounds, the soft clatter of the reset, someone laughing in the kitchen, the coffee machine starting its afternoon cycle, come through the gap in the door. She is 28 years old. She has under $1,100 in her personal account. She has a rent notice with 31 days on it, a scholarship gap with 60 days on it, and now she has a development company that has just bought the ground beneath her feet. She also has Keisha, and Darius, and Miss Carol, and Jerome, and Walter in the window with his newspaper, and the young mother in the scrubs who looked at a plate of eggs and felt, for one moment, like somebody saw her. She has the photograph of Miss Ida on the east wall, and the apron she ties left side first, and the morning that comes back every day whether she is ready for it or not. She does not know yet what is coming. She does not know about the man sleeping 3 blocks away in a coat with holes in the elbows. She does not know that the thing she cannot see from where she is sitting is already moving toward her, slowly, quietly, the way Grace tends to move before anyone notices it. She just knows that tomorrow, the alarm will go off at 4:47. And she will get up. And she will go. Because the table at Soulful Roots has always had room. And Nia Cole intends to keep it that way. The lunch rush at Soulful Roots ends around 2 o'clock. Nia is in the kitchen prepping for dinner, her hands moving with the efficiency of deep practice, but her mind is on the number 31. 31 days before the formal process begins that ends with Soulful Roots emptied and locked and repurposed into something that has never once served Walter Washington his 6th cup of coffee. She is so deep inside the number that she almost doesn't hear the door. Amara comes through the door at 3:22 the way she always does, backpack on one shoulder, slightly tilted, her gray coat worn with the satisfaction of someone who has located a beloved item and intends to enjoy the victory. She is beautiful in the way that catches you off guard, not polished or self-conscious, but alive. Everything she feels moves through her face like weather across open sky. She has Miss Ida's eyes. She drops into her booth, unwraps her scarf, and calls toward the kitchen without preamble. Nia, I'm starving. Nia plates up a generous bowl of chicken and rice and brings it out herself. Sits across from her sister. This is their time, the mid-afternoon hour she protects. She does not schedule calls during it. She just sits. A 94, Amara reports, in the tone of someone announcing a minor disappointment. A 94 is excellent. A 94 is not 100. I need everything to be right this semester. With Spellman and everything. There it is. The word that lives underneath all of Amara's conversations lately. Spellman. Nia keeps her face exactly as it is, warm, present, the same face she has been practicing since this morning's alarm, since the rent notice, since the number she cannot make work no matter how many times she tries. Everything is going to be right, she says. And the moment passes into the gentle rhythm of sisters who have been through enough together that silence is also a form of conversation. Oh, Amara says, as if she has just remembered. She reaches into her backpack, sets a cream envelope on the table between them, the Spellman College seal embossed in the corner. Already opened, carefully, and refolded with equal care. It came this morning. I've read it 6 times. Nia reads it all the way through. The merit scholarship confirmed. The words exceptional and promising. And then the number at the bottom of the page, preceded by the words remaining financial responsibility. $18,000. 60 days or the place goes to another candidate. She folds the letter, looks at her sister. Miss Ida's eyes, searching for whatever Nia's face will tell her. Nia smiles. It costs something, but it is real. You got into Spellman, on merit, on your own work, your own mind. We're going to figure out the rest. She means it. Even though 31 days and 60 days and $18,000 are sitting in her chest like stones she cannot put down. She means it completely, because that is what you do for the person you are responsible for. You hand them your certainty, even when you are building it out of nothing, in real time, with your bare hands. Keisha comes into the kitchen at 4:20 and finds Nia at the counter with 2 pieces of paper and the specific expression of someone doing mathematics that do not add up. She does not ask what they are. Which fire do you put out first? She says. Not quite a question, just the acknowledgement of an impossible situation without pretending it is possible. They work side by side in silence for a few minutes. Then, she got in on merit. Nia says it not for information. Keisha knows, but because some things need to be said out loud to become fully real. Of course she did, Keisha says. No performance, just the simple confirmation of something never actually in question. 18,000 short, 60 days for the scholarship, 31 for the building. Okay, Keisha says. Okay, Nia says. Neither means they have a solution. Both mean, I am still here. I have not looked away. It is not nothing. It is, in fact, one of the most important things one human being can offer another. She closes the restaurant at 9. On the 6 blocks home she passes what used to be there. The barbershop, still open, just. The florist, shuttered. The hardware store, gutted, a Meridian notice in the lower corner. 4 businesses in 2 years on 6 blocks. She parks outside the apartment and sits in the car. From the 3rd floor, the light in Amara's room, the yellow warmth of it, the shadow of movement that means her sister is still up, reviewing that calculus quiz for the 7th time because 94 is not 100. Amara does not know about the 31 days. She does not know about the 3 loan denials. Nia is going to keep it that way for as long as she possibly can. Because Amara has a letter from Spellman that uses the words exceptional and promising, and Nia is not going to let the weight she is carrying land on her sister's shoulders one single day before it has to. And somewhere 3 blocks away, a man in an expensive coat he has chosen not to wear is staring at his own ceiling, thinking about 11 restaurants in 6 months that made him feel like something essential had gone out of people. He does not know Nia Cole exists. But in 8 days he is going to push open that door in a coat with holes at the elbows and sit at table 7 and order just coffee. And everything is going to change. By 7:30, every folding chair in the fellowship hall at 6th Avenue Baptist is filled. Business owners, longtime residents. The air smells of coffee and the specific human mixture of worry and defiance that belongs to any gathering of people who have not yet decided whether to be afraid or angry and are holding both possibilities open. Mr. Theodore Ellis is at the front with a map projected on the wall behind him. Her block, with shading on it, a lot of shading. As of this week, the Meridian Group has completed the acquisition of 14 properties in the West End corridor. 6 buildings in the last 30 days alone. Nia writes it down and underlines it. Their plans call for mixed-use development across the full corridor, which means every current tenant in those 14 buildings is operating on borrowed time. The shortest notice on record, 30 days. The historic preservation route, 12 to 18 months minimum. The timeline doesn't align, which is a careful way of saying, by the time the process catches up, there will be nothing left to preserve. A silence settles over the room. Not defeat, not yet. But the silence of people confronting the gap between what they believed was possible and what the machinery of a city is actually prepared to do for them. She doesn't plan to speak. She comes to these meetings to listen. But Mr. Ellis asks if anyone else wants to, and the silence that follows is the kind that happens when a room full of people are all thinking something true and none of them are sure they have the right to say it first. So Nia stands up. My name is Nia Cole. I run Soulful Roots on the corner of Sycamore and Vine. My grandmother opened it in 1971. I got my notice. 30 days. She looks at the council staff in the back row. This neighborhood did not survive Jim Crow and redlining and the crack epidemic and a dozen other things that were supposed to finish it. It did not survive all of that so that it could be quietly erased by a development company with city permits and a timeline. Soulful Roots is not just a restaurant. It is 52 years of this community feeding itself. My grandmother built it as an answer to a question this neighborhood kept asking. Is there somewhere we belong? Is there somewhere that sees us and keeps us? I am not going without a fight. And I don't think any of us should. The applause is immediate, full. Nia sits back down, her hands slightly unsteady, not during, but after, the way adrenaline waits for the moment to pass before it shows itself. She presses them flat on her notepad. Always steady, eventually. She is buttoning her coat when a hand finds her arm. Miss Loretta James, 73 years old, on this block since 1968. Small, barely 5 feet. With the kind of eyes that have seen enough of the world to be gentle about it without being naive. I knew your grandmother. I was 20 when she opened that restaurant. I used to come in on my lunch break with 50 cents and Ida May always put a biscuit on the side and never charged extra. She was the first person who made me feel like this neighborhood was mine. Not a place I happened to live, mine. Her hand still on Nia's arm. Her eyes not moving. If Soulful Roots closes, this block loses its heartbeat. Not its anchor, its heartbeat. An anchor keeps you in place. A heartbeat tells you you're alive. Now go home, get some sleep, and open that restaurant tomorrow morning like you own it, because you do. And some things need to be reminded of that every single day. She walks away, slowly, with the unhurried dignity of someone who has been in a hurry exactly as many times as she has decided was appropriate. The alarm goes off at 4:47. She opens her eyes, sits up, begins. On the walk to the restaurant, she passes the hardware store with the Meridian notice, the shuttered florist, the barbershop running shortened hours, the empty lot. She passes all of it. She does not look away. The key turns in the lock at 5:03. The smell hits her, grease and wood and something older underneath. She straightens Miss Ida's photograph. She doesn't need to. She does it anyway. She ties her apron. Left side first. Always left side first. And then she begins. The same way she begins every morning. The quiet, stubborn, daily act of showing up for a place that needs her. Because that is what she does. That is who she is. And nobody, not the Meridian Group, not the 31 Days, not the council staff who couldn't quite look anyone in the eye, nobody is going to take that from her without a fight. Dawn comes. The light through the front window thin and gray and perfectly ordinary. Soulful Roots opens its doors. Before we meet him at the door, you need to understand something about Raymond Hale. He is 68 years old. Born in Tifton, Georgia. His father worked a textile mill. His mother was a seamstress who pressed her clothes every morning regardless of what the day held, because she believed how you presented yourself to the world was a form of respect for it. Raymond grew up understanding that dignity was something you chose, that money was useful and its absence not shameful, but that neither state was a measure of a person's worth. He built things, slowly at first, then faster. A firm that started with 2 employees in a rented office in 1982 and now employs 1,200 people. He was proud of it, genuinely, without apology. And then 18 months ago his wife died. Her name was Catherine. 40 years. She was the person who knew the difference between the Raymond who ran the firm and the Raymond who existed underneath that. When she died, he discovered something he had not expected, that he did not know how to be himself without her watching. So 6 months ago, he started walking. He put on old clothes that didn't announce him and walked through Atlanta, through diners and corner stores and the particular geography of ordinary life. 11 restaurants in 6 months. Every time, invisible. Every time, treated with the practiced efficiency of people who had learned to allocate their attention according to what it was likely to return. He had almost given up. And then it rained. It is a Tuesday afternoon in the 3rd week of January. The rain is the kind Atlanta does in winter, steady, gray, purposeful. Raymond has been walking for 40 minutes. He is wet. His coat, a brown wool overcoat bought at a thrift store specifically because it didn't announce him, has absorbed a considerable amount of the afternoon and is doing its best with it. He has not eaten since morning. He turns onto Sycamore Street. He notices the boarded storefronts. The Meridian notice in a window. The hardware store with the papered glass. He is still noticing all of this when he sees the sign. Soulful Roots. Dark red on cream. The lettering slightly weathered. The lights on. He pushes the door open. Keisha notices him the way she notices everything, immediately and without making it obvious. The wet coat, the careful posture, the way he placed himself at table 7 with his back to the wall like he had done it 10,000 times. She takes his order, a bowl of grits, the cheapest hot item on the menu, and turns to go. 3 steps away she sees his hands. Clean, precisely trimmed nails. The skin of his palms smooth in a way that hands only stay smooth when they have been held carefully for a long time. These are not the hands of a man who cannot afford the soup. She files this away, goes to find Nia, table 7, bowl of grits. You might want to go out and see this one. Nia wipes her hands, walks out, sees him immediately, back straight, coat folded, the stillness of someone who did not arrive here by accident. She stands there just long enough to look properly. Then she goes back to the kitchen. The grits are ready in 4 minutes. Nia plates them, then looks at the bowl. Thinks about the man at table 7. The coat, the careful way he read the prices. The hands that do not match any of it. She thinks about Miss Ida. She adds 2 eggs scrambled soft, 2 strips of turkey bacon, a warm biscuit. She is doing this before she has fully decided to, which is how these things tend to work when they're the right thing. She carries it out herself. Sets the grits down first. Then the plate, casually, no performance of generosity. We overcooked a batch this afternoon. Kitchen does it when the afternoon is slow. It'll go to waste otherwise, and Darius takes wasted food personally. Would you mind helping us out? Raymond looks at the plate. Then at her. Something passes through his face. A person checking a thing against a standard they carry inside them that they have never shown anyone. I only ordered the grits. I know. The rest is just a kitchen problem looking for a solution. It really would be doing us a favor. A pause. All right, thank you. Nia, she says when he asks. Nia Cole. He looks at her for just a moment, the kind of look that takes a thing in fully before storing it carefully. Thank you, Nia Cole. He finishes every bite. The eggs, the bacon, the biscuit, eaten last, slowly, the way you eat something you want to last. Then he sits for 20 more minutes watching Nia move between the kitchen and the floor. The economy of her movement. The way she stops at the elderly man's table and makes him laugh. The way she deposits water at the student's table without interrupting him. He thinks about what his mother used to say. Raymond, the most important thing you will ever learn about a person is not what they say about themselves. It is how they treat someone when there is nothing to gain from treating them well. When he rises to go, he places a dollar bill beneath his water glass. At the door he turns and looks back one more time. At the room, the photographs, the chalkboard above the register. He reads the words, stands there just long enough to read them twice. No one leaves this table hungry. Then he pushes through the door into the January rain. Keisha clears table 7 and finds the dollar pressed flat beneath the glass. Brings it to Nia. A person who leaves a tip on a meal they didn't ask for, Nia says, is someone who understands what a gesture means. That's a very precise answer. It's a very precise dollar. Nia keeps it on the counter, separate from the register, for the rest of the afternoon. It is just a dollar. But it is also something more than just a dollar. And she has learned over 28 years to pay attention to the things that are more than what they appear to be. Wednesday morning. Nia opens at 5:03, ties her apron left side first, straightens the photograph. The morning begins its usual shape. At 8:15 Keisha comes through the kitchen door with the energy of someone who has been holding a thought for 12 hours. $20, she says. The old man from yesterday. He comes back before noon. Same table. Nia looks at her. The absolute certainty in Keisha's expression, not arrogance but the grounded confidence of someone whose read is almost never wrong. I'm not taking that bet. Because you think I'm wrong? Because I think you're right. And I don't take money I haven't earned. At 9:47 the bell above the door makes its slightly off-pitch chime. Keisha, refilling table 3, does not look toward the door. She just says, at a volume calibrated for Nia's ears only, you owe me $20. Same coat, different shirt beneath it, white, clean, pressed with a care the coat does not share. He goes directly to table 7 without scanning for options. Folds his coat beside him. Sits. Nia brings his coffee. Stands for a moment at the edge of the table in the natural pause where a transaction can either end or become something else. She stays. How did you sleep? Better than the night before. That is an honest answer, if not a cheerful one. Honest is better than cheerful. Something moves briefly in his expression. Yes, I believe that too. When she sets the plate down, eggs, bacon, biscuit, grits, and a small bowl of Miss Ida's peach preserves. He looks at it, then at her. Kitchen trouble again? There is something in his voice, not quite humor but adjacent to it. Darius. He means well. He must be a very generous cook. Then, without looking up, do you do this for everyone? Nia considers the shape of what he is actually asking. Is this who you are? Or is this something you decided for me specifically? We try. He sets the fork down. Why? Simple, specific, completely serious. Because Miss Ida would haunt me if I didn't. She nods toward the east wall. She opened this restaurant in 1971. She had one rule. Nobody leaves this table hungry. Didn't matter who you were or what you had. I've never found a reason to change that rule. Raymond's eyes move to the east wall. To the photograph. Ida Mae Cole, 1971. Arms crossed in the doorway, smiling the smile that means something. He looks at it, and keeps looking, not the polite appreciation of someone told a thing is worth seeing. The look of someone seeing something they were not expecting, something that reaches into a place inside them and makes contact with a memory so old and specific that for a moment the present and the past are occupying the same space. Nia watches him. She has shown people that photograph 1,000 times. Raymond does not move on. He looks at it long enough that she notices and files it away in the same place she filed the hands and the precise dollar and the full name. She looks like someone worth haunting you, he says, almost to himself. She does her job. How long ago did she pass? 4 years. He nods. Not the social nod of condolence but the nod of someone who knows what 4 years of absence feels like. She leaves him to his breakfast. But she carries the look on his face, the one he gave that photograph, with her for the rest of the morning. The look of a man who recognized something. She just does not know yet what. That evening in the hotel suite on Peachtree, Raymond sits at the desk by the window. He has a pad of paper in front of him. He writes in longhand, always has. He writes quickly. A name. Soulful Roots. A date. The first visit. Then 2 words beneath it. Still there. He looks at those 2 words for a long time. Then he writes. Ida Mae Cole, 1971. The photograph. He sets the pen down. Takes Catherine's handkerchief from his coat pocket and sets it on the desk beside the pad. Looks at them both. A piece of paper with a name, a square of white cotton that belonged to his wife. He thinks about Nia Cole saying, because Miss Ida would haunt me if I didn't. He thinks about the photograph. The woman with arms crossed. The smile that means something. He knows that smile. He has not seen it in 55 years. But he knows it. He picks up his pen. Writes one more line. Go back tomorrow. Folds the paper. Puts it in his pocket beside Catherine's handkerchief. For the first time in 18 months, the feeling of something being unfinished does not feel like pain. It feels like the beginning of something. Thursday. Raymond is at table 7 by 9:30. Nia brings his coffee before he asks for it. He notices. She can tell he notices everything, and says nothing. His posture today is fractionally different from the days before. A single degree looser. The way a person carries themselves when a place has begun to feel like somewhere they are allowed to be. He asks about the building. The original brick, Miss Ida buying it outright in 1984. How the holding company acquired the mortgage without them knowing until the notices arrived. He listens with the focused attention she has come to associate with him specifically, not nodding to signal engagement, just genuinely absorbing. Then, was there a right of first refusal clause in the original lease? The question lands with a precision that belongs to a different register than anything they have discussed before. Not casual curiosity, the targeted specificity of someone who knows exactly what question to ask and why. Nia goes still, just a fraction of a second. I don't know. I'd have to go through the original paperwork. Raymond nods once, the nod of someone adding something to an internal list. It might be worth finding out, he says. Mildly, the way you say something when you know exactly how much weight it carries and are choosing to carry it quietly. Who are you? She asks. Not unkindly, just the direct question of someone who has noticed a gap for the 3rd time and decided to name it. His gray eyes are completely steady. Just a man who keeps finding he is in the afternoon. Technically a second true. Visit. Also, everything he is prepared mid-afternoon right now. Not pattern anymore. Intention. He has a question. This is how it works now. He comes. He waits with the patience of someone who knows the things worth having take their own time, and then when she settles across from him, which she always does, as if the room has a mild gravity that keeps pulling her back to table 7, he asks something. How do you decide who to hire? I ask them one question, she says. Just one. Tell me about someone you took care of. Not someone who took care of you, someone you took care of. I don't care about the scale. I just need to know that caring for someone is something they have done. That they know what it requires. Raymond is still, not polite stillness, the deeper kind, of someone struck by something honest enough not to rush past it. And if they can't answer? They've always been able to answer. Everyone has taken care of someone. Most people just haven't been asked to name it. Smart, he says, quietly, the single word carrying the full weight of someone who has spent a lifetime evaluating people and has just been given a method better than most of the ones he has used. He does not write it down. No pen, no phone. Nia notices the absence. She will mention it to Keisha later. But she has the distinct impression he will not forget it. She has had this impression about everything she has told him since Tuesday. Friday. At 3:45 Amara arrives, backpack tilted, gray sweater, and without being asked brings a glass of water to Raymond's table. Just the natural reflex of someone who grew up in a place where you bring water to whoever is sitting down. What do you love about it? Raymond asks, after she tells him her sister owns it. She hears the difference between idle small talk and a real question. It always feels like something good is about to happen, she says. And goes back to her homework. Raymond watches her go. Then his eyes find Nia across the room, laughing at something with a regular, completely at home in the space she built. His expression does something, not dramatic, just a small softening, the kind that happens when a wall encounters something that does not require the wall. The first nearly imperceptible relaxation of something held tense for a very long time. Keisha is looking. She always is. Later, he asks about Amara. She said she loves this place, the way people say things they mean from somewhere deep. The precision of the observation touches something Nia was not prepared to have touched. She tells him about Spellman, the merit scholarship, the partial award. He files it. She can see him do it, the specific quality of attention that shifts when something moves from background to foreground. He does not ask the amount. He simply receives it and holds it with a care that is beginning to feel less like the courtesy of a stranger and more like the weight of someone keeping track for a reason. At 11:47 on Friday, Raymond pays for his coffee and leaves. 12 minutes later Darius comes through the back door and stops. There's a man in the alley. Nia looks through the gap. Raymond, 30 feet down, back to the restaurant, phone to his ear. His posture is different. The carefulness of the old coat and the counted coins is not quite present in the way he is standing. He stands the way someone stands when they have set something down because they need both hands free. She cannot hear the words, the distance and the city swallow them completely. He speaks for 90 seconds. She times it without meaning to. Then he lowers the phone, looks at it, puts it in his pocket, walks away in the other direction, into the ordinary Friday afternoon traffic. You know him? Darius asks. He's a regular, she says. She goes back to the kitchen. The lunch prep, the dinner, the rent notice and the scholarship gap and the 30 days. She goes back to all of it the way she always does. But the alley stays with her. The 90 seconds she was not allowed to hear. The way he stood when he thought no one was watching. Different. He stood completely different. By the end of the first week, the staff of Soulful Roots had opinions about the man at table 7. On Saturday morning, 20 minutes before opening, they held what could charitably be described as a spontaneous informal review of the evidence. Keisha called it to order. Keisha's theory, food critic. He watches everything. He's cataloging. Darius, without looking up from his prep, he doesn't write anything down. The good ones never do. That's the whole point. Miss Carroll, wiping the counter without eye contact, retired professor. Probably literature or history. The coat is a clue. Academics never replace coats. Jerome, loading dish racks without slowing. My cousin thinks he might be an estranged grandfather. Come back to see if the family is still here. The way he looks at the neighborhood when he comes in, like he's checking on something. So we have food critic, retired professor, and estranged grandfather, Keisha said. Anyone else? A pause. Then Darius, still not looking up. I think he's lonely. The room went quiet differently than before. That's not a theory. I didn't say it was interesting. I said I think it's true. Nobody argued, because nobody, being honest, disagreed. Nia had appeared in the kitchen doorway at some point during the retired professor debate, invoices in hand, and stood listening without anyone registering her arrival. She listened to all of it. At one point she laughed, barely there, but genuine. The kind that escapes when something is more accurate than funny. When Darius said what he said about loneliness, she stopped laughing. She looked at the kitchen door, the one that leads to the alley where she had watched Raymond stand for 90 seconds with a posture that belonged to someone else entirely. Nia, you've talked to him the most. What do you think? She thought about his hands. The right of first refusal question. The way he said Ida May Cole's name after she told him about the photograph, quiet and particular, like a name he was placing somewhere rather than hearing for the first time. I think he is looking for something. And I think he hasn't found it in a long time. And I think he may have found some version of it here. That's not a theory either. No, it isn't. She looked down at the invoices. Open in 20 minutes. Let's be ready. He arrives at 10:15. Goes straight to table 7. The staff watch with the heightened focus of people who have just spent 20 minutes discussing someone and are now watching them in real time with the attention of an audience given a program. Nia brings his coffee before he asks. She does this every day now without thinking. Busy today. Saturdays always are. These are the people who have been coming here for years. Decades, some of them. I know them by name. By order. By most of their stories. Raymond looks out at the room. The book club women, Pastor Gaines with his catfish and contentment, the families with children. With the quality of attention she cannot classify and has stopped trying to. This is a remarkable place, Nia Cole. I know, she says. And goes to bring his kitchen mistake. At 11:30 Amara arrives, looser and brighter than the school week allows, and stops at Raymond's table. You're here again. I find I keep coming back. My sister's food will do that. She got it from our grandmother. Miss Ida. The photo on the wall. His eyes go to the photograph and stay there a moment longer than ordinary. He asks what she will study. She tells him, political science this week, pre-law last week, environmental policy still not ruled out. My sister says I should study whatever makes me want to stay up late reading it. Your sister is right. She usually is, said with the tone of someone who finds this both admirable and occasionally inconvenient. Then Amara goes to her booth and Raymond looks across the room to where Nia is laughing at something Mr. Patterson has said. The full laugh, unguarded, produced not for performance but because something is genuinely funny and all of her considerable guard is momentarily down. Raymond watches this, and his face does something it has not done before. Not careful attention, not assessment. Something simpler and older, the expression of a man who has been looking at a dark room for a very long time and has just seen, in one corner of it, a light he had stopped expecting to find. It lasts 3 seconds. He looks down at his coffee. Drinks. Keisha, at the service station, has seen every second of it. She says nothing. She picks up her tray. But Keisha Washington does not unsee things. At 12:40 Raymond rises to go. He stops at the register. Pays for his coffee. Reads the chalkboard. No one leaves this table hungry. The way someone reads something they want to keep. Buttons his coat, waits until Nia turns and their eyes meet across the room. The nod that has become their shorthand for the entire visit. She nods back. The door chimes. Keisha is at Nia's elbow 4 seconds later. That man is not who he says he is. Not a question, not even quite a statement. Something more settled than either, an observation that has moved through theory and suspicion and landed somewhere that feels like certainty. Nia looks at the door. Nobody is, Keisha. Nobody is. A long pause. Then Keisha. When you find out who he actually is, and you will, I want to be in the room. Nia watches her go. She has built a whole restaurant on the corollary of this belief, that what matters is not who people say they are but how they treat the person who brings them their coffee. By that measure she knows exactly who Raymond is. What she does not know is the scale of it. She does not know that 5 days ago in that alley he made a phone call that will change every number she has been staring at since January. She knows how he takes his coffee. For now that is everything. And it is enough. She tells them at 6:30, before the breakfast service begins, while the coffee is still brewing and the restaurant smells like morning and everything that has not happened yet. She stands at the front with the letter in her hand and does not find a gentle way to say it, because there is no gentle way and she respects these people too much to spend time looking for one. I got the formal notice this morning. 30 days from Saturday. The new lease terms are a 40% increase, which I cannot make work. I am not giving up. But I need you to know where we are, because you deserve to know. Whatever comes next, I want it to come next for all of us together. Jerome looks at the table. He is 23, saving for school, and his jaw does something Nia notices and will not forget. Keisha sits with both hands flat on the table, deciding in real time which version of herself to be. She chooses not to cry. Her eyes are bright but her face does not break. What do you need from us? What you always give me. Show up. Do the work. Keep this place exactly what it is for as long as we have it. She sends them home early at 5:30. Miss Carroll pauses at the door, looks back at the restaurant, looks at Nia, and says nothing at all. Which, coming from Miss Carroll, is a complete sentence. Outside in the alley where no one can see her, Keisha cries for exactly 4 minutes. Then she comes back in. Because that is also what you do. She does not consciously decide to go to it. She is moving through the closing tasks, and when she reaches table 7 she simply stops. Sits down. Raymond's table. The one farthest from the window. The one where a man she does not fully understand has been sitting for 12 days, leaving a dollar pressed flat beneath a water glass, asking questions that are too good, watching her restaurant with an attention that should unsettle her and somehow does not. She sits in his chair. She takes the formal notice from her apron pocket, takes a napkin, finds her pen, and she does the maths. Current revenue against the new rent, utilities, payroll for 6 people she will not cut. She crosses this line through before she has finished writing it, because these 6 people are not a variable, supplier accounts, loan repayments, the costs that do not reduce no matter how efficient you are. She fills the napkin, flips it over, fills the other side. The numbers do not work. No version of them works. She sets the pen down and sits with the napkin full of numbers that will not bend. For a long time she just sits. She opens her contacts. Finds a name she has had in her phone for 2 years, a commercial real estate agent named Davis. The note beside it. If it comes to that, there is a buyer, someone interested in the Soulful Roots name, the equipment, the recipe archive. Enough to clear the debts and leave her with something, not what this place deserves, but something. She thinks about Jerome's jaw, about Amara's letter and the look on her face when she said, "We'll figure it out, baby." About Miss Loretta and the heartbeat. About being 28 years old and sitting in her grandmother's chair and not being able to find a single number that adds up to the thing continuing to exist. Her thumb hovers over the call button. She almost dials. The almost is real, the specific, physical, genuine almost of a person who has arrived at an edge and is looking at what is on the other side. She almost dials. And then her eyes go to the east wall. The photograph is across the room. From table 7, in the dim security light, barely visible, the shape of a woman in a doorway, the suggestion of crossed arms and a smile that means something. Nia looks at it for a long time. The phone still in her hand. The number still on the screen. She thinks about 1971. A woman who opened a restaurant in a neighborhood people had already written off, with resources that were insufficient, with nothing but conviction and a rule. She thinks about the boy Miss Loretta mentioned who came in with 50 cents and left with a biscuit he didn't pay for. She thinks about Walter Washington at the window. The young mother counting coins at 7:40. All the things this place has been. Not a lease arrangement, not a revenue entity, but the answer to the question this neighborhood keeps asking. Is there somewhere we belong? Her thumb moves away from the call button. She locks the phone, sets it face down. Not yet, Grandma, she says. Out loud. To the photograph across the room, to the woman in it, to whatever in this room listens. Not yet. She cleans the kitchen alone until midnight. Every surface, every pan, the cast iron skillet maintained exactly as Miss Ida taught her. The kind of clean that is also a form of devotion. At 12 minutes past midnight she says tomorrow to the dark, and locks the door behind her. The alarm at 4:47. 4 hours and 20 minutes of sleep. She gets up, begins. The staff arrive and nobody asks how she is. They know what she needs is not to be asked, she needs to work. They give her that. The breakfast service runs. It is a Tuesday, Raymond's day. He comes at 9:52. Table 7, his coat folded, his gray eyes doing what they always do, looking properly, without performance. He sees it, whatever last night left on her face. 4 hours sleep and a cleaned kitchen and a phone she almost dialed and a photograph she could not see in the dark but knew exactly where to find. His eyes take a fraction of a second longer than usual before he speaks. Rough night? Just tired. He holds her gaze. Then, quietly, with the weight of someone who has earned the right to say something by having had it be true. I know that kind of tired. I know you do. She goes back to the kitchen. A young black woman and an old white man sat across from each other in a small restaurant on a January morning. One carrying 30 days and $18,000 and a phone she had almost dialed the night before. The other carrying $4 billion and a name that would change everything. A name she did not yet know, a secret he had not yet told, a decision he had already made in a phone call she had not been allowed to hear. Neither spoke the truth that morning. But they were closer than either of them knew. The truth was already in motion. The way grace tends to move before anyone notices it is there. Come back for Chapter 10. Because a sleeve is about to shift on Raymond Hale's wrist. And Keisha Washington is going to see something that will bring this whole story to a door it cannot close again. Thursday afternoon. Raymond at table 7 since 10:18. Slightly later than usual, on his second coffee, which means he asked for a refill, which means something about today is different even if nothing about him looks different. Keisha is refilling his cup when it happens. He lifts the cup, the slight tilt toward the pot, courteous and economical, and his sleeve shifts. Just an inch, maybe less, the kind of shift that happens when a man has been sitting in one position for a long time. In that inch, in that fraction of a second, Keisha sees it. She does not stop pouring. Her hand continues its motion, the coffee continues its arc, her face does not change in any way Raymond could read. Because Keisha Washington has been reading people across restaurant tables for 8 years and she knows, the way you know things that live in the body rather than the mind, that the moment to react to what you have just seen is never the moment you see it. She pours, she straightens. Can I get you anything else? No, thank you. She moves back to the service station. Does not look at his wrist again. Does not need to. What she saw was a watch. Keisha's cousin Marcus Tillman repairs luxury timepieces. 11 years. His own shop off Ponce de Leon. Keisha has never cared about watches. She has, however, been listening to Marcus talk about them at every family gathering for 11 years, which has given her, against her will and without her active consent, a working knowledge she has never had occasion to use until this Thursday afternoon. The watch on Raymond Hale's wrist is a Patek Philippe. She knew it from the case profile, the specific gold that is not plated because this manufacturer does not plate, the way it sits on his wrist, not worn like a watch but carried, the unconscious relationship of a person and an object together so long it has become part of the arm. Marcus's words absorbed over 11 years. Nobody wears a Patek like it's a watch. They wear it like it's part of their arm. Entry level. $80,000. What she saw is not entry level. She takes a cloth and wipes down a counter that does not need wiping. She is very calm about this. Inside she is not calm at all. At 2:14 Raymond rises, folds his coat left over right, pays for the coffee, presses his dollar flat beneath the water glass. The nod to Nia across the room. She nods back. The door chimes. Keisha is in the kitchen doorway before the chime fades. Her voice has a quality Nia has not heard before, not alarm, something more controlled than alarm, which is more alarming. That man's watch. She clears the kitchen with one deliberate tilt of her head. When I refilled his coffee his sleeve shifted. That watch is a Patek Philippe. Starts at 80,000. The one he was wearing is not entry level. The kitchen is quiet. The grill pops once. Nia stares at the back door. The alley where 8 days ago Raymond stood for 90 seconds with a posture that belonged to someone she has not yet met. Who is this man? Not a theory being tested. A fact being acknowledged. I don't know, Nia says. And I don't know if it's my business to find out. That evening she sits with the laptop open, the search bar blank. She thinks about the watch, the hands, the questions that are too good, the alley call, the way he looked at Miss Ida's photograph, too long, with something already inside him before he walked through the door. She closes the laptop. A person's worth isn't their story. She does not look him up. Keisha looks him up at 9:40 p.m. from her kitchen table, twins asleep, her 20-minute window to herself. She searches every combination. Patek Philippe, Atlanta, private equity, Raymond, older white man, right of first refusal. She finds nothing that matches. This is itself the information. A man who wears an $80,000 watch and asks questions with the precision of a seasoned dealmaker should not be hard to find. His absence from every result means he has gone to some effort not to be found. She texts Marcus Tillman. What does it mean if someone is wearing a high-end Patek but dressing like they're broke? His reply at 10:23 means they don't want to be found. The watch is muscle memory. The clothes are a costume. Keisha reads it twice, turns off the light, does not sleep for a while. Across the city on the 14th floor of the Peachtree Hotel, Raymond is at his desk with his leather notepad, RH embossed on the cover, 40 years of assessment mapped across its pages. He turns to a clean page, writes 2 lines, picks up his phone. Victoria, begin the process. All of it. The building acquisition, the trust structure, the community fund, the scholarship endowment. Everything. Are you certain? I'm certain. 30 days. Keep his name out of it for now. She made her own choice. He wants his to be equally clean. He hangs up, looks at the 2 lines he wrote before the call. She fed me when she had no reason to. Now I know what to do with the rest of my life. Nia Cole chose not to look. She closed the laptop and went home and trusted what she had always trusted. That a person's worth is not their story, that dignity comes first, that what matters is how you treat the one who brings you your coffee. She was right about all of it. What she did not know is that somewhere across the city, a man she had been feeding for 15 days had just used the word everything. He had set something in motion that was already moving toward her door. Not quickly, quietly, with complete certainty about where it was going. It would arrive in 4 days. And when it arrived, it would not knock. Of all the days the revelation could have arrived, it chose the best one. Wednesday the 19th of January. Every booth occupied by noon. A waiting list at the door for the first time since the holiday season. Darius at the grill at the measured intensity of a man who has found his stride. The restaurant was loud in the way restaurants are loud when they are completely, unreservedly alive. A room full of people who are entirely present, not eating between obligations but actually here, actually warm, actually together. Nia was behind the counter at 12:47, moving with the efficient grace of someone whose choreography is entirely interior. The numbers still did not work. The 30 days were now 26. None of that was visible. The restaurant was full and alive and she was fully present in it because that was the job. Keisha was at the service station, both coffee pots in hand, when she glanced through the front window and stopped. The coffee pots stayed level, 8 years of training refusing to let anything spill regardless of what her brain was doing. Nia, come look at this. The first SUV pulled into the Soulful Roots parking lot at 12:51. Black, not the incidental black of a car that happens to be that color. The specific, deliberate, institutional black of a vehicle chosen for its absence of anything that draws attention while being impossible to ignore. It pulled in slowly, precisely, and stopped. The second came 30 seconds later. Same model, same color, same unhurried precision. The restaurant was still talking, still eating. The third arrived, then the fourth. By the fifth, the table nearest the window had stopped eating. By the seventh, Keisha had set both coffee pots down without taking her eyes off the glass. 8, 9, 10 black SUVs in a perfect line. The restaurant was silent. The specific silence of a room full of people who have all just seen the same thing and are waiting, collectively, to understand what it means. Walter Washington lowered his newspaper. Darius stood at the pass with the expression of a man deciding whether what he is seeing is real. Keisha reached out and found Nia's arm. Not urgently, not with alarm, just the way you hold onto something when the ground has shifted and you want to make sure the person beside you is still there. Nia did not move. She watched the doors of the 10 black SUVs open. They came out in suits that were part of their equipment, 17 people total, moving with the economy of people who have arrived somewhere with a purpose. One woman led the group. Early 50s, silver gray hair cut with architectural precision, charcoal blazer. Heels that had been making that sound for 30 years. She did not hurry. She walked to the door, opened it, came in. The bell made its slightly off-pitch chime, so completely ordinary in the context of what was happening that 3 people at different tables registered it with something close to relief. She found Nia behind the counter. Stopped. Are you Nia Cole? Yes. One word. No inflection. Just yes. We are here on behalf of Raymond Hale. The name fell into the silence and stayed there. Nia sorted through everything she knew and found nothing that connected to it. I don't know anyone by that name. You do, Ms. Cole. You have served him coffee and a hot meal for 19 consecutive days. Nia did the maths, not financial maths, the other kind. 19 days, 2 seconds. The man at table 7. Not a question. The flat certain arrival at something that had been moving toward her for 19 days without a name. Yes, the woman said. She turned the tablet over. On the screen. A man in a boardroom. floor-to-ceiling windows. Dark navy suit. Standing at the head of a table with the posture of someone who has been standing at the head of tables so long it has stopped being a position and become simply where he is. Looking at the camera with gray eyes. His gray eyes. The ones she had been looking at across table 7 for 19 days. The caption read twice before the numbers resolved. Raymond Hale. Founder and chairman, Hale Capital Group. Net worth. Approximately $4.2 billion. Nia's hands tightened on the counter's edge. Not dramatically. The quiet involuntary grip of someone whose body has received information the mind has not yet finished processing. Keisha looked at the screen, read the caption, and said something brief and under her breath that is absolutely, categorically cannot be aired on YouTube. But it captured the situation precisely. What's happened? Nia asked. Because 10 vehicles and 17 people belonged to circumstances that were not purely administrative. Mr. Hale suffered a cardiac event this morning. He is stable. 9:15. While she was serving the breakfast rush. While table 7 was empty and she had told herself he simply wasn't coming today. He is stable, the woman said again. The word placed carefully because she could see what Nia's face was doing and understood that stable was the most important word in the sentence and needed to be said twice. He requested your presence. And he asked us to give you this. She placed it on the counter. A white envelope. On the front, in handwriting that was not printed or typed, actual handwriting, carrying the specific character of how that person holds a pen, one word. Nia, written in the careful, slightly unsteady hand of an older person who has taken their time with each letter. She recognized it immediately. She had never seen it before. But she recognized it, the economy of it, the care, the choice to use only her first name, which was exactly the choice he would make. The restaurant was completely, absolutely silent. Walter Washington's hands folded on the table. The book club women. Darius at the pass. Keisha beside her, not speaking, not moving, just there. Nia stood with the envelope in front of her for a moment that lasted longer than its actual seconds, between the last beat of one version of things and the first beat of what comes after. Then she picked it up, held it. In 19 days, Nia Cole had fed a billionaire 41 meals. Not because she knew who he was. Not because she expected anything in return. Not because anyone was watching or counting or keeping a record. She fed him the same way Miss Ida fed everyone, because he was there, because he looked hungry, because nobody leaves this table without something. Raymond Hale had been watching every single day. And he had been counting. Every single one. The envelope is in her hands. Her name is on the front. Written by the man carrying $4 billion in a debt he has been trying to repay for 55 years. The envelope was in her hands. The restaurant was completely, absolutely silent around her, every person still, waiting with the specific quality of attention that people bring to moments they understand, without being told, are important. She broke the seal. Her hands were steady. She noticed this and felt something like gratitude for it, not because she was performing steadiness but because she wanted to be present for whatever this was. 3 pages, handwritten, dark blue ink, good paper, the kind chosen when you want the words to last. She looked at the room. All these people who had been coming to Soulful Roots for years, for decades, here right now by the complete accident of a busy Wednesday lunch. She looked back at the letter. Then she began to read. Aloud, not because anyone asked her to. Because Miss Ida's restaurant had never been a private place and she was not going to make it one now. Ms. Cole. I want you to know something before anything else. I knew from the very first meal. I was not testing you. Testing implies I was withholding something good until you proved you deserved it. That is not what was happening. What was happening is something closer to the opposite. I was hoping for you. Nia stopped. The words, I was hoping for you, landed somewhere specific inside her and she needed a moment before she could continue. Not because they were difficult. Because they were so exactly right for something she had not known needed to be said to her until they were said. She looked at the letter. Continued. I have been looking for something for 6 months. 11 restaurants in this city. I had begun to believe I was looking for something that no longer existed. Then I walked into Soulful Roots. Then you brought me a meal I did not ask for and told me it was doing you a favor. And something I had been holding very still for a very long time began, slowly, to move again. But there is something I need to tell you about this place, about your grandmother, that I do not believe you know. Her eyes went to the photograph on the east wall. Miss Ida in the doorway, arms crossed, smiling the smile that meant something. The restaurant waited. Nia looked back at the letter. In the winter of 1971, I was 7 years old. My mother's name was Ruth. We had come to Atlanta from Tifton, where my father had just died and where we could no longer afford the rent. She had a job interview on the 4th morning and she needed me to be somewhere quiet and warm while she went. She brought me to the nearest place with a light on. That place was this restaurant. Nia stopped reading. The connection between what she was reading and what it meant required more than a moment to fully form, because what it meant was so large and so old and so completely unexpected that her mind needed time to build the structure that could hold it. She looked up at the photograph of Ida Mae Cole, her grandmother, 1971, standing in the doorway of this restaurant. This doorway. Nia, Keisha's voice, almost a whisper. She had read it too, over Nia's shoulder. Nia, keep reading. Nia kept reading. The woman who ran the restaurant had an apron and her arms crossed and a smile I have never been able to fully describe to anyone who wasn't in the room. She looked at my mother. Then she looked at me. The way teachers sometimes do, not at what you are right now, but at what you might become. She brought my mother coffee. She brought me a plate. She brought us both a plate. She never said the word free. She never used the word charity. She never did anything that required my mother's pride to absorb a blow. She simply brought us what we needed and gave us the time to eat it. We came back every Thursday for 4 months. My mother cried in the car every time we left. I was 7. I thought she cried because she was sad. It took me 20 years to understand she cried because she was grateful in a way she could not express in any other form. Walter Washington was not looking at his newspaper. He was looking at the floor, his shoulders doing something they did not normally do. One of the book club women reached across the table and found the hand of the woman beside her. Darius had set down his spatula. Keisha stood with both hands flat on the counter, jaw set, eyes very bright. She was not going to cry, she had decided. She was going to be present for this with everything she had. She was not entirely succeeding. For 53 years I did not know her name. The day you told me about your grandmother, the day you said her name and pointed at the photograph, I looked at that photograph and I knew. Ida Mae Cole, the woman who fed my mother and me in 1971. Your grandmother, who gave me back, across 53 years, in the form of her granddaughter saying it would really be doing us a favor. The thing I had almost stopped believing people still did for each other. Nia stopped. She stood with the letter in her hands and looked at the photograph on the east wall and held what she had just learned in the way you hold something so large that you need both hands and still are not sure you have it all. Miss Ida, 1971. A 7-year-old boy and his mother. 4 months of Thursdays. Never the word free. Her grandmother had done this exact thing in this exact restaurant to a 7-year-old boy who had grown up to come back 55 years later and sit at table 7 and order just coffee. Nia breathed. Then she read the last part. I am not offering you money. What I am offering is a debt being honored. A circle being closed. I want to purchase the building through a community land trust, permanently, so that no development company now or ever can do to your neighborhood what the Meridian Group is attempting to do. I want to establish a fund for the black-owned businesses on your street, interest-free, no equity required, no one who needs it to perform. I want to endow a scholarship in your grandmother's name, named for Ida Mae Cole, who taught a 7-year-old boy that the world still contained people who would feed you without requiring you to explain your hunger. And I want to ask you, not tell you, ask you, to continue running Soulful Roots exactly as you have been running it. I have spent 53 years trying to find the right way to say thank you to your grandmother for a plate of food on a Thursday morning in 1971. I think this is as close as I am going to get. Raymond Hale. Nia folded the letter slowly, carefully, along its original creases, because he had folded it with care and it should go back the same way. She held it in both hands. The restaurant was completely silent. Then Keisha's shoulders shook, just once, and she turned away briefly, and no one looked at her while she did because everyone understood. Walter Washington put his head down over his folded hands. One of the book club women said, Lord. Just that one word, carrying everything it needed to carry. Nia was already looking at the photograph. She had never known about the boy. Miss Ida had never told anyone. Had simply done the thing and kept doing it and not organized it into a story that required an audience, because that was not what you did when you fed someone who was hungry. You fed them. You did not build a narrative around it. She thought about the rule, said so many times that it had stopped being a rule and become simply the description of what this place was. She thought about a 7-year-old boy with gray eyes watching a black woman in an apron who looked at him not at what you are right now but at what you might become. And she thought. She knew. Somehow Miss Ida knew the thing she was doing was larger than any one plate of food, that it moved through the world in ways she would never see and did not need to. And she did it anyway. Every Thursday. For 4 months. Then for 52 years after that. Okay, Grandma, Nia said, quietly, almost to herself, but the room was still and everyone could hear her and she did not mind. A pause. Okay. She untied her apron, folded it, looked at Keisha. The 8 years and the coffee pots and the kitchen mistakes and the $20 she never collected, all of it in that look. Go, Keisha said, we'll manage here. Nia picked up the letter and held it in her hand because she was not ready to put it anywhere she could not feel it. She walked through the restaurant, past the book club women, past Walter Washington who said nothing and meant everything, past Darius who met her eyes once briefly. She stopped at the east wall, looked at Miss Ida one final time, then walked out into the January afternoon. Ida May Cole fed a hungry boy and his mother in 1971. She never knew his name. She never knew what he would become. She just brought a plate and refilled the coffee and left them the privacy to be grateful without performing it. That is all she did. And 55 years later, her granddaughter stood in the same doorway with the same rule on the chalkboard. Nobody leaves this table hungry. And a letter that said, your grandmother fed me once. I have been trying to repay it ever since. That is how kindness moves through the world. Not in straight lines. In circles. Long, patient, completely inevitable circles. Always circles. The 12th floor opened onto carpet, original artwork, security personnel, the specific warmth of a space designed by people who understood that environment communicates. Victoria at the nurses' station, changed into Navy now, managing the rhythm of a crisis 6 hours old. He is awake. He has been asking about you. How is he? Stable, strong, frustrated that he is in a bed. Nia looked at the door at the end of the corridor. I'll go in alone. Of course, Victoria said, after a moment. In the bed, propped against pillows, in a hospital gown that was objectively the most unlikely garment she had ever seen on a $4 billion man, was Raymond Hale. Without the coat, without the careful architecture of invisibility he had built and maintained for 19 days. Just Raymond, older than the coat made him look, more himself than the coat allowed him to be. His gray eyes exactly the same. Completely the same. The most consistent thing in the room. Something happened in his face when he saw her. The expression of a man seeing the person he has been waiting to see and being, for once, entirely without performance about it. You look different without the coat. You look the same. That is a compliment. I know. I'll take it. They talked. Not the careful exchange of a man who knows everything and a woman who knows almost nothing. That conversation was over. The letter had closed it. What opened was something else. Two people in the same room with the same understanding of what they are to each other. He told her about his mother, Ruth, the hotel job on Peachtree, 7 years of housekeeping, school paid for on that salary and the alterations she took in on weekends, one generation's hands teaching the next. She was extraordinary, he said. Simply, without performance. She sounds like Miss Ida. I think that's why I recognized it. The way your grandmother looked at me. The way you looked at me, it was the same look. The one that sees what you might become rather than what you are right now. Are you worth it? I'm still working on it. So am I. He told her about Catherine. Not everything. There are things about a person you loved for 40 years that cannot be fully given to someone you have known for 19 days. But enough. The 40 years. The way she could read a room before they had spoken to a single person in it. The laugh he described with the care of someone who does not want to get it wrong. He reached into the pocket of the hospital gown and held the handkerchief briefly, then put it back. She would have liked you. She would have spotted you immediately, from across a room, and said, Raymond, do you see that young woman? She is carrying something. Go find out what it is and whether you can help. She was more direct than I are. Most people are. He made a sound that was not quite a laugh but was its close relative. This is also true. He asked about the block. The other businesses, the closures, the Meridian timeline. Nia told him without editorializing. Just facts, because the facts were already bad enough without drama. Raymond listened completely. The Meridian Group is a symptom. The incentive structure is the problem. I know, but right now the symptom is the one with 24 days and a lawyer. 24 days. As of today, you counted, since the day you mentioned it. I should have moved faster. I apologize for that. Then, without preamble, Amara. The scholarship gap, 18,000. About 43 days now. That number is already addressed. The Ida May Cole Scholarship Fund covers Amara's full 4-year cost at Spelman. It was the first line item. Nia went still, long enough that the machines beeped several times in the silence. You put Amara first. Your grandmother put my mother first in 1971. It seemed right. He told her the shape of it. The building through a community land trust, permanently, so no development company now or ever. The restaurant staying hers not as a gift but as a right. You built it. Your grandmother built it before you. The development company simply had a legal instrument that said otherwise. I am removing that instrument. Why? Because your grandmother fed me when I had nothing to offer the world. And you fed me when I had forgotten who I was. You can build anything you want in this world, but the only things that last are the ones built on the fact that people matter. The fund, interest-free, no equity, governance designed by Nia because she knows what these people need. The scholarship in Ida May Cole's name, permanently endowed, annual awards, her name on something that lasts because she taught a 7-year-old boy that a stranger's hunger was worth caring about. I need to think. Of course. Take all the time you need. A pause. Then, lighter, drier. The particular wit of a man who has been in a hospital bed for 8 hours and has decided this is the only dignity remaining to him. But not too long. I am 68 years old and I just had a heart attack. Nia laughed. The real one. The full, unguarded one. From somewhere below the steadiness and the left side first apron in the kitchen at midnight and the numbers that will not bend. The one Keisha recognized from across the restaurant. The one Walter Washington once said was the best thing about the place. Not the food. The laugh. Raymond looked at her and smiled. The real smile, reaching the eyes, belonging to a face that has not worn it often enough recently and is grateful for the occasion. For a moment neither of them was carrying anything except the present. Which was, for both of them, an extraordinary relief. The nurse appeared at 4:45. Nia stood. Thank you for the letter. Thank you for reading it aloud. A pause. She had not told him that. He had known anyway. At the door. Rest. 48 hours. Don't direct anything. That seems like a long time. You just had a heart attack. I am aware. Then 48 hours is not a long time. All right. 48 hours. She passed Victoria in the corridor without stopping. Victoria watched her go. Expression composed, eyes filing, assessing, arriving at conclusions not yet decided what to do with. The elevator descended. In her pocket the letter. In her chest the full weight of it, the building, the fund, the scholarship, Amara's name on the first line, her grandmother's name on a permanent endowment. And the laugh. Still there, still warm, still enough. 48 hours. That is what she asked him to take. But Victoria Marsh did not agree to anything. Victoria stood in that corridor and watched Nia Cole walk into an elevator and thought carefully about what she had seen, in the restaurant, in that room, in the expression on Raymond Hale's face. She had been managing his affairs for 22 years. She had never once seen him look at anything the way he looked at that. While Raymond rested, Victoria Marsh did not rest at all. 22 years of managing his affairs, through 2008, through 3 hostile acquisitions, through a 4-year regulatory investigation she negotiated out of in 6 days without leaving a Washington, D.C. building. She was very good at her job. And her job, as she understood it, was to protect the institution Raymond had built from decisions made in states of diminished judgment. She believed, genuinely believed, that what she was doing was right. This is the thing that made Victoria Marsh dangerous. Not cruelty, not malice toward Nia Cole. Conviction. The emergency board meeting convened at 8 a.m. Thursday. 8 board members. Raymond's chair empty. Victoria at the head with a clean, precise timeline on the presentation screen. Over the past 6 months Raymond has been conducting an unsanctioned personal experiment. Leaving the hotel in civilian clothing, without security, visiting locations in the city as an anonymous member of the public. In the most recent instance, he visited a West End restaurant on 19 separate occasions and has since directed our legal team to begin a substantial philanthropic commitment in connection with the owner, a Ms. Nia Cole, aged 28. She paused. Then, plainer. He has been wandering the streets in disguise, giving money to strangers, and he now wants to transfer significant company assets to a restaurant owner he met 3 weeks ago. Jonathan Pierce leaned forward. Is there a formal assessment of his current, Victoria cut gently, a competency review? To ensure commitments made during this period were made with full and stable judgment. To protect him, to protect the institution, she believed every word of it, standing at the head of the table with the empty chair behind her and the city spread out below. The motion was filed with the court by 10:30 that morning. The phone call was made from a private office at 11:15. Victoria made it herself rather than delegating, which told you something about how seriously she took the reputational dimension of what she was managing. A contact at the Atlanta business desk. A professional relationship cultivated over years. There is a situation involving a prominent Atlanta business figure. The situation involves a restaurant in the West End. An owner named Nia Cole. There may be questions about whether the relationship constitutes an appropriate interaction between an elderly man in a vulnerable state and someone who stood to benefit substantially from his generosity. She did not use the words exploitation or manipulation. She did not have to. You provide the outline. The journalist's imagination and their reader's appetite for a specific kind of story fill in the rest. I would investigate. I think you will find it interesting. She hung up, returned to the competency motion filing. She was doing her job. She told herself this. Nia found out at 6:47. Already at the restaurant since 5:03, apron tied, photograph straightened, coffee started. Her phone buzzed. A number she didn't recognize. Have you seen the paper? Then Keisha. Call me before you open your phone. Then Mrs. Hargrove calling to ask if she was all right. She opened the paper's website. The headline designed to invite a particular reading while maintaining technical deniability. Atlanta Billionaire's mystery beneficiary under scrutiny. Her photograph from the restaurant's social media. The article named her, described the 19 visits, noted that questions had been raised. No allegations outright, just questions raised. She set the phone face down. Then picked it up and read it again, all the way through, carefully, because the thing you do with a document that hurts you is read it. Precisely, so you know exactly what you are dealing with. Keisha arrived at 6:55 and stopped when she saw Nia's face. These people, she said quietly, the specific quiet fury of someone who has seen this exact thing happen before and is still not past being outraged by it. These people cannot let a black woman receive something good without immediately trying to take it away. She stopped. She had more to say and chose not to. Open at 7. Open at 7. They did. The morning service ran. Mrs. Hargrove arriving in person at 8:30 and sitting at the counter and ordering her usual without once mentioning the article, because showing up was a more complete statement than anything she could say. Walter Washington arrived not due until tomorrow, sat for 2 hours, said nothing, and by his presence alone said more than most people manage with words. 2 reservation cancellations, both polite, both with regret she believed was genuine. She confirmed them, thanked them, went back to the floor. By 5 p.m. Nia understood the full architecture of what had happened. The article was not the damage, it was the mechanism. The competency motion filed that morning. The Meridian Group's press release by noon noting ongoing legal proceedings and announcing they would proceed with the original development timeline. The 2 supplier accounts paused, each one individually defensible, together producing a result that was not defensible at all. Not an attack, a series of procedurally legitimate actions. That was what made it effective. She sat in her office with the closed door and the specific kind of anger that burns clean and steady rather than hot and consuming. She thought about Victoria watching the letter being read, watching Keisha's shoulders, watching her say "Okay, Grandma," and then walking into the boardroom the next morning and presenting all of that as a threat to be neutralized. She sat with the anger for exactly as long as she permitted herself. Then she opened the door. Through the kitchen window. Keisha, Darius, Jerome, Miss Carroll moving through the closing prep. No discussion, no panic, just work. She watched them for a long time. She did not have words for what she felt watching them. She still does not. I need to stop here and ask you something directly. What just happened to Nia Cole is something a lot of you watching this have experienced in your own life, maybe not at this scale, but the same thing. You worked for something, you built something, someone saw you receive something good, something you earned, something given freely, something yours by every measure that actually matters, and immediately moved to take it away. To question it, to make you prove you deserved what you already had. Have you been there? Drop your story in the comments. Not the headlines. The real story. What happened, and what you did. Brother Elijah is reading every single one. Raymond Hale is still in his hospital bed. He agreed to 48 hours. But Raymond Hale reads the newspaper every morning. And on Friday morning the paper arrives in his room. And he is not the kind of man who watches people he chose get attacked without doing something about it. The call came at 2:14 p.m., the middle of a school day, which meant something had happened. The sound on the other end was the acoustic of a school bathroom. And underneath it, something that rearranged every priority Nia had. Amara was trying not to cry, controlling it the way she had learned from watching Nia control things, the breath unsteady, the voice carefully constructed to sound more stable than it was. "I'm fine," she said, which was the first indication she was not. Some people at school saw the article. They said you had done it on purpose. Getting close to him. That the whole thing was. She stopped. It doesn't matter what they said. I know it isn't true. It isn't. Simply. Without defense, because the truth did not require either. Amara, we know who we are. You and I. We know what happened and why and what it means. What strangers say about things they do not understand is not information about us. It is information about them. Hold your head up for the rest of this school day. You don't owe anyone your dignity. A long pause. Okay, I'll see you at 3:30. Thank you, Nia. I love you. She hung up, crossed to the office door, closed it, put her head in her hands. Not because she did not believe what she had just said to Amara, she believed it completely. But because there is a difference between knowing the truth and being unaffected by the cost of it. Because Amara was 17 years old sitting in a school bathroom trying not to cry over something that had everything to do with the world's particular response to a black woman receiving something good. She sat with that for exactly as long as she permitted herself. Then she opened the door. She had a restaurant to run. Amara came at 3:30, chin up, exactly as instructed. Nia brought her a bowl of chicken and rice, set it down, looked at her sister. They did not need words. The bowl said, "One see you, I am still here, this is still what we are." At 8 o'clock Amara hugged her from behind, held on a moment longer than usual, and left. The door chimed. At 9:15 the last customer left. Nia was in the office, door open, a choice tonight, not a habit. Through it she heard Keisha begin. Not talking, not announcing, just beginning. The scrape of a chair, the clatter of dishes, the swish of a cloth. Then Darius breaking down the grill with the systematic attention of a man who takes his equipment seriously. Jerome steady on the dishes. And Miss Carol restocking the reach in with produce for tomorrow's breakfast service. Not because anyone asked, because the work of tomorrow begins in the quiet of tonight. No discussion, no rallying speech, no expressed commitment to the cause. Just the work, the specific, humble, irreplaceable work of people who have decided, not dramatically, without announcement, that they are going to show up tomorrow. Nia stood at the kitchen window and watched them and did not say anything. She did not have words for it. Some things do not have words. They have something better. They have the sound of chairs being straightened and dishes being stacked and a reach and restocked at 9:30 on a Friday night when the world outside has decided it knows something about who you are. They have that, which is everything. Raymond read the article Saturday morning at 7:30, from the first word to the last, with the same careful attention he brought to everything. He did not skim. He did not react while reading. When he finished he folded the paper, looked at the window for 15 seconds, and picked up his phone. He called Thomas first. File the response to the competency motion today. Not Monday. Today. Pull every record of my assessments from the last 2 years, medical, psychological, financial. Everything. That is the point. Then he made the second call. Nia's phone rang at 7:54. Unfamiliar number. She answered. His voice, lower than usual, spending it on something worth the cost. I have seen what they are doing. I want you to know with complete clarity, I am not confused. I am not fragile. I am not wrong about who you are. You don't owe me anything, Raymond. You can withdraw. None of this requires a legal battle. I know that. I am not fighting this because I owe you something. A pause. Then why? He was quiet, not hesitation, the pause of someone who wants to say something precisely because precision matters here. Because I owe you nothing and I choose you anyway. Do you understand the difference? The first is obligation. The second is a decision made freely, with complete information, by a person who knows exactly what they are doing. I know what I am doing. I chose this. I am still choosing it. The kitchen behind her had gone quiet in the way kitchens go quiet when people are listening through an open door and do not want to be heard doing it. Okay, she said. Okay, he said. Now let me tell you what happens next. By midday Raymond had dictated a personal statement, 412 words, the most important he had put his name to in 40 years. It began with Ida Mae Cole in 1971 and ended, I am not a confused man. I am not a vulnerable man. Nia Cole is not an opportunist. She is exactly what she appears to be, a woman who runs her grandmother's restaurant with the conviction that nobody leaves her table hungry. I knew this from the first day. I will stand by it in any proceeding, in any court, in any room where the question is asked. Thomas sent it at 2 p.m. By 2:19 it had been intercepted, not suppressed, procedure, producing exactly the same result as suppression. Victoria had anticipated it. She was very good. Then we do this in court, Raymond said. Thomas asked if he was certain. Laid out everything. Thorough, public, the press, personally invasive, every decision examined. Thomas. The word cut cleanly through the qualifications. I am 68 years old. I have built a $4 billion company from a $200 loan a church deacon gave my mother when I was 12. I have never once failed to be exactly who I say I am. Schedule the hearing. And Thomas. I want the statement released the moment it concludes. Whatever the outcome, the record needs it. He set the phone down. He looked at the ceiling. He was not afraid. He had been waiting, without knowing it, for this question to be asked of him directly. He was ready to answer it. That evening Nia learned the hearing was Friday. 14 days left on the Meridian notice. The two timelines not comfortable together. She hung up and went back to the floor. The restaurant quieter than a usual Saturday, the week's cost visible in the gaps. But running. She went back to work. But something had shifted since the morning call. Raymond had not used the word owe. He had used the word choose. That distinction stayed with her through the service and the closing and the walk home and the next morning's alarm. Not debt, choice, renewable, made fresh each day. She walked into Soulful Roots on Sunday and straightened Miss Ida's photograph and for the first time in a very long time felt not the weight of it but the specific anchored warmth of someone who has been chosen, freely, with full knowledge, without condition, and who has allowed themselves to receive that. She tied her apron, left side first. She began. Thursday evening. The restaurant closed, staff gone, the last lock turned. Nia sat at table 7 alone. Not the purposeful aloneness of chapter 9, just sitting, being present in the quiet of a place holding the warmth of a full day. Tomorrow she would stand in a courtroom. She was not afraid of the record or the outcome, only of being insufficient to what the moment required. Of not being enough for what Miss Ida would need her to be. Then the back door chimed. Amara. Backpack held in front of her carefully, something more considered in her posture than usual. She sat across from Nia. 17 years of looking at each other across this table. Are you actually okay or are you doing the thing where okay is the correct answer? Both. The right answer. The honest one. Are you scared? Nobody had asked. Not Keisha, not Raymond, not Thomas. Amara asked. Yes, Nia said, and said it again, because it was the right word and it deserved to be said properly. I am scared of being in that room and not being enough. Not for the outcome, for the thing itself. For what Miss Ida would need me to be. The restaurant quiet around them. The photograph barely visible in the security light. But scared doesn't mean wrong. And it doesn't mean stop. Amara looked at her with Miss Ida's eyes. No, it doesn't. A silence that held rather than pressed. Then Amara reached into her backpack. She set a wrapped rectangle on the table between them. Brown craft paper. She said nothing. Nia unwrapped it. A black and white photograph from a newspaper archive, slightly grainy, digitized from print. Not the familiar one from the east wall. A different one. Miss Ida in motion. Mid-step between tables, apron on, coffee pot in one hand, plate in the other, completely in her element. Not posed, not arranged for posterity, just there, in the restaurant, feeding people. And beneath it, the caption, Ida Mae Cole, Community Pillar. West End, Atlanta, 1971. Nia could not speak. A version of her grandmother she had never seen. Where did you find this? A local history archive. A 1971 piece about community business owners. 6 people in the article. She was the only one they described that way. Not just the caption. In the article, the reporter talked to people who knew her, and that's what every single person said. The woman who never let anyone leave hungry. That was her whole life, Nia said softly. That one sentence. Amara was quiet for a moment. Then, it's yours too, Nia. 4 words. Complete certainty. It's yours too. Said twice because some things deserve to be said twice. Amara had framed it. Dark wood, clean lines, done this week, during everything, during school and the bathroom and the pile on and all the weight pressing on soulful roots. Found the archive, printed it, framed it, brought it. Without being asked, without telling Nia it was coming. Put it on the wall. Beside the other one. After tomorrow. After tomorrow. At the apartment door that night Amara turned. Miss Ida would not be scared tomorrow. No, she wouldn't be. But she would understand why you are. And she would do it anyway. Yes, she would. The door closed. Nia stood on the street looking up at Amara's yellow window. She was still protecting it. Not because she owed anyone. Because she chose it. She went inside. She slept. In the morning the alarm went off at 4:47. She put on the dark navy suit, the one bought for a loan meeting she did not get. She picked up the framed photograph, looked at it one last time. The woman in motion. The caption. She put it in her bag. She went. If this story has reached something in you, subscribe. Right now. Every story on this channel carries the same heart. The same belief that ordinary people doing quiet, stubborn daily acts of dignity are the ones who move the world. Subscribe and bring someone with you. Friday morning. The Fulton County Courthouse. Cameras. Press. The gallery filling with people who drove from West End. And Keisha Washington, 8 years, both coffee pots, $20 she never collected, is going to walk into that courtroom in her Soulful Roots apron. She will not be alone. The Fulton County Courthouse, Friday morning. Camera crews on the steps. Press badges. People who drove from West End for reasons that were not professional but personal. The particular presence of people who have decided a thing happening in public deserves a witness. Nia moved through it in the dark navy suit. Ready, she told Thomas. The only useful answer. The gallery was filling when she entered the courtroom. She had expected some people. She had not expected this. The West End business community. Miss Loretta in the second row, coat pressed for the occasion, upright with the composure of someone who has attended important public events for 60 years. Walter Washington with his newspaper folded on his knee, brought but not being read. And near the back, 6 people in a row. Keisha, Darius, Miss Carol, Jerome, all of them in their Soulful Roots aprons. Not dressed for a courthouse, dressed for work. The work they had kept doing through the worst week in 3 years without discussion or panic. Just the aprons, just present. Keisha met Nia's eyes across the gallery. The 8-year language, everything said in one glance. Amara slid into the seat beside her. Of course she had made it. Across the aisle Victoria Marsh sat with her legal team, back straight, not looking at Nia. The judge entered. The gavel fell. The hearing began. A door at the side of the courtroom opened. Raymond Hale entered, not in a hospital gown, in a suit. Dark navy, silver hair combed, gray eyes taking in the room with the complete unhurried attention Nia had been watching across table 7 for 19 days. Not frail, not confused, completely himself. The gallery shifted, a breath, the collective adjustment of people who have been waiting for something without knowing it and have now received it. He looked at the judge. Then briefly at Nia. She nodded. He nodded back. Are you currently of sound mind and judgment? Yes. One word. No qualification. Simply true. In the winter of 1971 I was 7 years old. My mother and I had come to Atlanta from Tifton, where my father had just died. My mother had a job interview on a Thursday morning and she needed somewhere warm and quiet to leave me. She brought me to the nearest place with a light on. That place was a restaurant in West End. A black woman ran it. Her name, I did not know it that day, and I did not know it for 53 years, was Ida Mae Cole. Beside Nia, Amara's hand found hers under the table and held it. She fed my mother and me without charge, without condition, without making us feel we were objects of charity rather than people deserving of a meal. 4 months of Thursdays. My mother cried in the car every time. I was 7. I thought she cried because she was sad. It took me 20 years to understand she cried because she was grateful in a way she could not express in any other form. 18 months ago my wife died. Without her I lost my way. Not my mind, my way. There is a difference. I want that distinction in the record. I spent 6 months trying to find something I could not name. I found it in her granddaughter's restaurant on a Tuesday afternoon in January when Nia Cole brought me a meal I had not ordered and told me it was doing her a favor. The decisions I made, the building, the fund, the scholarship, were made with the full knowledge, the full intention, and the full capacity of a man who has spent 60 years trying to repay a debt and has finally found the right way to do it. A pause. Then, looking directly at Victoria, you have served me well for 22 years. You have protected the institution I built with the skill and dedication it deserved. And I am grateful, but you cannot protect a man by erasing what he believes in. Victoria's expression broke, not dramatically, barely, just the specific fracture of a face that has been holding something wrong for a long time and has been told so with complete clarity. She looked down at the table. The cross-examination took 22 minutes. They had prepared for a man whose reasoning was circular and whose emotional state undermined his clarity. They had not prepared for Raymond Hale as he actually was. The judge reviewed the documentation. Removed her glasses. The court finds that Raymond Hale is fully competent to make decisions regarding his personal and business affairs. The petition for competency review is dismissed. All associated holds on the respondent's charitable initiatives are released effective immediately. The gavel came down once. 5 full seconds of silence. Let it in. All of it. 18 chapters. 19 days. 55 years. All of it moving toward this one sound. A gavel in a Fulton County courthouse saying, dismissed. Raymond Hale is fully himself. Nia Cole did nothing wrong. Miss Ida's restaurant is coming home. Take every second of it. You earned them. The gallery erupted, not polite applause, the sound of people who have been holding something very carefully and have just been given permission to set it down. Miss Loretta pressed both hands to her knees and closed her eyes. The staff stood in their aprons because standing was the only appropriate response. Keisha was crying openly. She had decided this moment earned it and she was not going to manage it into anything smaller than what it actually was. Nia sat very still. So completely moved that the only thing she could do with it was be still and let it be as large as it actually was. Then Amara's hand tightened on hers. She put her other hand over Amara's. The three of them, Nia, Amara, and the thread of Miss Ida that lived in both of them, sat in the erupting courtroom together. Across the aisle Victoria packed her briefcase with precise, efficient movements. Her hand paused at the clasp for a fraction of a second. Nia saw it. Then Victoria stood and walked out without speaking to anyone. Raymond, on his feet now, met Nia's eyes from across the room. The real smile, unguarded, complete, the smile of a man who has done what he came to do and is standing on the other side of it. Nia smiled back. 2 weeks later, Soulful Roots, standing room only, Raymond Hale at a microphone, no notes. And he is going to say the name Amara Cole, out loud, in front of everyone. 2 weeks after the hearing, Soulful Roots was full, every table, people standing along the walls, the particular full of a room arranged for something. Nia behind the counter in her apron, her decision, unexplained. Whatever was about to happen was going to happen in her restaurant and she was going to be wearing the thing that said who she was in it. Raymond beside the microphone, no notes, the good suit, the gray eyes. He looked at Nia, she looked back, he picked up the microphone. Soulful Roots is not closing. Said without preamble, as plain as the fact it contained. The room absorbed it in stillness. People who had been afraid to believe it until it was said aloud where they could hear it. The building has been purchased and deeded to a community land trust. It cannot be sold to a developer. Not today, not in 50 years. Permanent, irrevocable, done. The room responded. Not polite applause but the sound of people who watched the block change and the storefronts close and had been sitting in church halls trying to stop what felt inevitable and are now hearing it has been stopped. Nia's hands tight on the counter's edge. Both hands, knuckles white. The Ida Mae Cole Community Fund. $10 million. Interest-free loans for black-owned businesses in this corridor. No equity. No board approval. Governance chaired by Nia Cole, because she is the person who best understands what these businesses need and what dignity requires of how they receive it. Someone was crying. Then several people. The kind not from sadness. The kind that happens when your body runs out of other ways to respond to something genuinely good. Then Raymond looked at Nia specifically, not at the room, at her, and said, "The first scholarship goes to Miss Amara Cole. Spelman College, class of 2029. Fully funded." In the middle of the room Amara's hands came up and covered her mouth. Her shoulders shook once. The room responded to her response, the specific proxy joy of watching someone young receive something good. And behind the counter, Nia turned away. Not from Raymond, not from the room. Away from the fact of her sister's name said out loud in their grandmother's restaurant connected to the thing that had been sitting on the desk since January. The $18,000 gap, the 60 days, the we'll figure it out baby said with complete conviction and no idea how. She took 2 steps toward the kitchen. Stopped, her back to the room, her face to the kitchen wall. Her shoulders did what Keisha's had done in the alley, what Amara's had done in the school bathroom. They shook, just once. The movement of something held very carefully for a very long time finally given permission to release. Nia Cole had not cried in front of anyone for the entirety of this story. Just this once, her back to the room, she allowed herself to feel the full weight of what it meant. Keisha put one hand on her shoulder. Just present, just there. After a moment Nia turned back, her face composed and steady, her eyes different. The specific brightness of eyes that have just cried and have not tried to hide the fact. She looked at Raymond. He was watching her. "Thank you," she said, quietly. He nodded once, with the weight of everything the nod contained. Raymond waited for the room to settle. Then, quietly, lowering the microphone, no longer announcing, just saying, "Miss Ida fed me once. In 1971, when I had nothing to offer the world. She did not ask me to explain my hunger. She simply gave it. Her granddaughter fed me 19 times. In the same way, with the same conviction. She fed me when I had forgotten who I was. And she reminded me, I am just returning what was given." The room went still. The stillness of a room that has arrived somewhere it was always going. In the back, Victoria Marsh was standing. She had come. Different suit from the courtroom, something less institutional, more the person than the role. Still, completely still. Her hand on her heart, not performance, the involuntary gesture of a body responding honestly to something it cannot defend against. Nia saw it. She looked at Victoria for a long moment. Then at Raymond. Then at the room. Amara with her hands pressed together like someone who has just received an answer to a prayer. Keisha beside her. Walter Washington's newspaper folded and forgotten. Miss Loretta with her eyes closed and her face at complete peace. This room. These people. This place. Soulful roots. Still here. 1 chapter left. 3 months later. The restaurant restored. A young woman walks through the door. She sits at table 7. And Nia Cole is going to bring her a meal. Because that is what you do. Because the table always has room. 3 months after the hearing, Soulful Roots had been restored. Fresh paint, refinished floors, the sign repainted by a local artist who knew Miss Ida and worked from an old photograph to get the lettering exactly right. But the same mismatched chairs. The same 2 photographs on the east wall side by side. The chalkboard unchanged. No one leaves this table hungry. On a Tuesday afternoon in April, mid-afternoon quiet, Nia in the kitchen with her hands in the prep and her mind on Amara, who had called that morning from Spelman. Political science, student government, the dining hall food nutritious and adequate. I memorized the biscuit recipe. Every ingredient, every step, 14 years of watching. A beat, left side first. Nia had laughed until her eyes watered. She was still smiling 3 hours later when the bell above the door made its slightly off-pitch chime. She looked through the kitchen pass window. A young woman, maybe 22, jacket worn beyond its season. She came through the door the way people do when they are not entirely sure they are welcome. reading the room carefully before committing to being in it. Her eyes moved from table, to the photographs, to the chalkboard above the register. She read it. Her expression was the expression of someone receiving information they needed but were not entirely expecting. Then her eyes found the back of the room. The table farthest from the window. The one that caught no natural light. She went to it, sat down, set her bag beside her carefully, looked at the menu for a long time. Nia set down her knife. She plated up a meal. Eggs scrambled soft, turkey bacon, grits, a biscuit from her recipe, peach preserves from Miss Ida's index card. Plated it with the care that belonged to all the meals she had ever given without being asked. Not charity, not performance, just a plate put together with the attention food deserves when it is going to someone who needs it. She walked out to the floor. We had a little extra today. Would you mind helping us out? Otherwise it goes to waste and Darius gets difficult about wasted food. The young woman looked at the plate, then at Nia, relief and disbelief and a gratitude too large for one expression occupying several simultaneously. I didn't order this. Kitchen problem. You'd really be doing us a favor. A long moment, not deciding whether to want it, deciding whether the accepting of it was something she could do without losing something in the transaction. Thank you, quietly, the two words carrying everything. Thank Darius, Nia said, and turned back toward the kitchen. The young woman ate carefully, really tasting the biscuit last, slowly, the way you eat something you want to last. When she set down her fork, the scanning for safety had gone from her eyes. Her eyes found the brass plaque on the table, reserved for those who need it most, and stayed there. Then she looked at the chalkboard again and Nia, watching, saw the same expression she imagined Raymond Hale had worn the first time he read those words. The expression of someone for whom a sentence has arrived at exactly the moment it needed to. Keisha appeared at Nia's elbow. Kitchen mistake? Not suspicious, not ironic, something warmer than both. Nia looked at the young woman at table 7, at the plaque, at the meal almost finished, at the particular ease of someone who came in carrying something and has been allowed to set it down. Every time. Later, when the young woman had left, $3 pressed flat beneath the water glass, which Nia found and held for a long moment. Nia stood alone at the east wall. Both photographs. She straightened the familiar one. Then the new one. Neither needed it. She straightened them anyway. Then she went back to work. Because the dinner prep did not start itself and Miss Ida would not accept anything less than her best. The restaurant hummed. Keisha with both coffee pots. The gospel music soft through the room like warmth through walls. The east wall with its two versions of Ida May Cole. The chalkboard unchanged. The brass plaque on table 7. Miss Ida fed a hungry boy in 1971. That boy built an empire and fed a community. Nia Cole fed a stranger who turned out to be that boy, all grown up. And now Nia will feed another. That is how kindness moves through the world. Not in straight lines, in circles, always circles. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that the good you do never disappears, subscribe to Brother Elijah Stories. Because every story on this channel carries the same truth. And Brother Elijah, like soulful roots, never lets anyone leave the table hungry.